My question is simple. Are you not being hypocritical, Mr. Gao?
They say China is trying to colonize Africa under disguise of economic cooperation. So what do you see as real?
China has built more infrastructure in Africa in just 2 decades than the West has in centuries. As the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation unfolds in Beijing, the Western media is throwing slanders at the China-Africa relationship.
Wagwan, I am the Kenyan Beast. Welcome to my YouTube space. I hope you are doing great wherever you are watching me from. In today's video, I'm going to talk about China intervention in Africa. Not that directly because there's a video I'm going to react about the students who were asking this Chinese minister. They were asking him questions about if they are hypocritical in Africa because they are saying they are doing this, but at the end of the day, maybe when you have their debt, they will take your airport. You know, let's watch this video first and then you know what I'm talking about. Okay? Stay tuned.
So you've mentioned that China has a no interference policy with other states and that states should have their own ability to dictate their way of life or their existence. But wouldn't you say China's presence all over Africa is in a way an exercise of some sorts of power, a soft power of sorts, and does that not contradict with the foreign policy of China?
Allow me to mention one thing. Before China's extensive engagement with Africa, Africa itself is a forgotten continent. That's not what Victor Gao said. That's generally being said by Western countries. Africa, after decolonization, was more or less the forgotten continent. Western countries did not want to engage it for whatever reason. China went in. China treated every African country as brother and sister, and China really invested hugely in Africa. Now, many other countries are talking about engaging with Africa, including the United States, many European countries, India, for example. The more the better, because Africa should not be a monopoly for any other country, not for China, not for anyone else. Africa is for the African people, and the taste of the pudding is always, you should not be a judge yourself. You go to African country and ask them whether they like building a road, whether they like building a gymnasium, etc. That is the only truth, because don't be lectured by other countries about what value African countries should have. The African value will be different from many other continents, for example. The other countries in other continents will need to help the African country to build up their infrastructure, to build their manufacturing capabilities. And that is the only goal for China. China has no colonial objective for African countries. China is so far away physically from Africa. Whatever China is doing the same in ASEAN countries, in Latin American countries, for example. And this is a sign of China's philosophy. That is, if we build our pillars of transformation, we want to share that with you. If we believe building road is the only way out, we help you to build the road.
Carl.
Thank you. My name is Carl Jumbo, freshman student at Georgetown University. My question is simple. Are you not being hypocritical, Mr. Gao? Why I'm asking, you're saying that, okay, in Africa, you're allowing some buildings, some infrastructure to be there. I'm from Zimbabwe. We have the second largest lithium reserves, but we're at the brink of losing ownership of all of these lithium reserves just because China built a parliament for my country. So if you're saying that you are promoting the sovereignty of nations, of countries, but you're taking our own parliament away, and let's say the airport in Kenya, for example, are you not being hypocritical?
Let me be very blunt. Zimbabwe is a great country. You had your election several years ago, and the presidential candidate was very much against China. He's elected as the president, and once he's in his office, he changed his mind, because he knows for sure that for Zimbabwe development, China is the main contributor for the Zimbabwean economic development. If you do not agree with me, go back to your country, talk to your government, and check out over the past 30 years, which country has invested most heavily in your great country? I know Zimbabwe well. China has dealt with Zimbabwe governments for several decades, including your great presidents, for example. And I would say China-Zimbabwe economic cooperation has helped the economic transformation in Zimbabwe in building up infrastructure facilities and in building up manufacturing capabilities of your country. That is the truth, if I may tell you. I think that is the only truth. Development is the hard truth. Thank you, brother.
They say China is trying to colonize Africa under disguise of economic cooperation. So what do you see as real neocolonialism?
Well, that kind of explanation is difficult to understand. Well, first of all, China has not dropped bombs on any territories anywhere in the world in the effort to steal the resources of those territories. China has not done that. China's attitude has been genuine friendship with the African people and indeed with all the peoples all over the world. In our most difficult periods, we counted on China. We stood shoulder to shoulder with China in combating racism, even in its worst form of apartheid.
Yeah.
The National Liberation Movement in Africa enjoyed considerable support from China and so on. So China is a friend. China is a brother. And China's understanding of Africa is not based on a hierarchical structure of masters and servants. It's based on a structure of mutual friendship and the development of the entire world for the prosperity of all the peoples of the world.
Just like other Europe countries, China is here again in Africa to try to help Africa. When I hear this speech or when I hear this guy answering question, there's a time he said that there's a time Africa was neglected by European countries and China was the only country that came to their aid. I don't know what was the time, but I think European countries have been here all the time exploiting from us. Maybe you can say the European countries neglected Africa in terms of development. That I agree. He was asked a question about if they are being hypocritical in Africa because they are saying they are helping Africa, blah, 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 in infrastructure, road construction, railway construction. But when you don't pay their debt, they will take your airport, they will take your seaport. And this guy gave an answer. I don't know if you are contented with the answer because a student who asked that question came from Zimbabwe, giving an example that they failed to pay the loan and their parliament was taken. Now, there's a video I did back then, long time ago. I was talking about China intervention in Africa. And I was thinking that China is just like other Western countries that they want to come in Africa, control Africa, but in different way. Unlike France, unlike USA, China at least is doing it in a fair manner, helping Africa genuinely. And I was saying maybe they are doing this right now, but whenever they get that trust, one day they're gonna come and take over as just other countries. But again, people told me that China are good friends. Now, China are good friends, okay? They have built roads here in Kenya, railways, and I don't really expect to hear that they are doing it for free. Of course, they are getting something from the country they are building. Now, let me talk about, let me just say positive perspective of China in Africa. Number one is economic growth and infrastructure development. Many view China as a key partner in transforming Africa infrastructure such as roads, railway, ports, and energy projects. Chinese investment have created jobs and boosted trade, helping many Africans' economy grow. That's true. They have boosted job opportunities because when they build roads here, you will find a lot of Africans are working there. Their companies, drivers, handworkmen, and they are there, and it's creating job opportunities. So I can say for sure they are doing that. They're a key partner in transforming infrastructure, building of roads. I can ascertain that they are really doing that, because I've seen the roads, the railways built here, and I can say 100% China is doing something on that. Number two, we call it non-interference policy. That one, I concur with with it. China policy is not intervening in domestic politics. It is seen as respectful compared to Western nations, conditional aids and or intervention. That is true. Up to now, China has not interfered in any political matters of any country. That's where I love China. They have not interfered in any country's political, local or domestic political issues. They have not tried to interfere with elections of certain country to choose a leader. They have never tried to interfere with the decisions made in the parliament of a certain country in Africa. They only deal with their roads, deal with their railways, whatever happening. When there is an election, they go away, wait, you finish your election, they will come back. If there is no peace, they won't come back. If there is peace, they come back and continue with their job. That one I give to them. Unlike these Western countries, France, name it, interfering into local politics. They want their leader to be there. We want Morara Kibaso, they want William Ruto. We want Okia Mtata, they want Raila Odinga. And they make sure they put whom they want in that seat, interfering with the local or domestic politics. And they are doing that because they want a leader who gonna protect their interest in Africa. They want a leader who can protect their resources. They want a leader who can give them or grant them easy access to these resources. They want a leader who he or they will be, just controlling him. They want a puppet. But China, on the other hand, they just want to make business. These guys are businessmen. They make legit business. They go away. They will only interfere on maybe in businesses. But up to now, I give China their flowers for not interfering in Africa politics, in countries in Africa. Okay. Number three, affordable goods and services. Chinese people, these guys are so creative, and I think a lot of things that we are using here in Africa, they come from China. For example, in Kenya, let me not say Africa, a lot of things that we are using in Kenya, even a knife, spoon made in China, matchbox made in China, tissue made in China. And sometimes I wonder, what is our problem? We're using everything made in China and just a matchbox that we can make it ourselves. To find a knife written there, made in China. But their goods are affordable, and that's why even here in Kenya, we have these things called Alibaba. We import things from China because they are cheaper. It's not their fault. It is our fault not to be so that innovative. Not even innovative. We are innovative, but it's our fault, government fault, not to put policies that will make that countries can even produce things, at least have industries and all those. So they are affordable products. Chinese companies provide affordable products, making essential goods accessible to low-income population. Influx of Chinese entrepreneurs has led to increase of market competition. I give China for that. About affordable goods and services, I give China for that. And they are working so hard every day to make sure they are in number one, in terms of market and, providing goods. Technology transfer. China has introduced technology expertise in sectors like telecommunication, e.g. Huawei, and manufacturing. That is what the Chinese, or positive perspective of China in Africa. When you talk about technology, they are trying to introduce their technology here in Africa. They are helping. When you talk about cheaper goods, you saw them opening China Square even. You are seeing them opening companies here. Their services are cheap. I think that's why a lot of African leaders go for them, or in the terms of building roads and railways, because they are cheaper. I don't know, but China is doing a lot in Africa. The best thing I love with China, they don't interfere with local politics. That's number one. That's what's eating us up. That is what has eaten most of Western countries. That's what has eaten Congo, Burkina Faso, Mali. Interference from foreign countries. You don't have freedom. You don't have sovereignty. You are working under pressure of some people. Now, I will talk about negative perceptions of China in Africa. For example, me too, I have negative perception of China in Africa. Number one is debt concerns. We worry about, or critics worry about, a debt trap diplomacy where African nation or African nation acquire unsustainable debts to China for large-scale projects. They build these roads in debt. And that's why this Zimbabwean students say that, are you not being hypocritical? You saying you helping Africa, but whenever they don't pay their loan on time, you want to take the parliament. You want to take the port. You want to take the seaport. What's happening? The debt trap that we will build this road from here to here, but you will pay us this amount from this time. If you fail to pay this road, we're gonna take money from this road up to when we are okay with it. When you don't pay, we are going to take your Adani, your airport. When you don't pay, we are going to take your seaport. Is not that a trap? Is not that being hypocritical? Number two, exploitation of resources. Some believe that China focus on raw materials extraction exploits African natural wealth without sufficient benefit to local population. As far as I don't want to agree with that, I agree with it. Sorry to say, but China, Russia, wanting to dominate Africa and do away with France, USA, don't you think they just want to take the place of the other countries and continue exploiting us? Don't you think whenever they get that access, whenever they be here and get that access, well, they will exploit us? Sometimes I think that one day when China has taken over everything, they're going to exploit us. And they are doing it. I don't know what you think about that. I don't want to talk much about that exploitation from China because a lot of you, I know you will not agree with it. One day I say that China somehow it's just the same. It's just they are coming slowly. They want us to deflect our course and start believing in them, and then they will showcase their nails or their, I don't know what to say about that. Number three, I will talk about labor and employment practices. Complaints about Chinese companies bringing in their own workers instead of hiring locality, and about labor rights violation. That is true. I have seen a lot of Chinese company here in Kenya, and out of 10 employers, 8 are from China. In South Africa too, some are complaining. Government is saying that the Chinese company is here and they will employ you, but at the end of the day, they're going to bring them their people. They're going to bring in Chinese people to work on those farms or on those companies. So, and even if we have black companies or black people working in Chinese companies, their rights is limited. It is limited. That's fact. That is true. And even if we say that Chinese is doing great in Africa, but it has its own negativity, like this employment and right violation, and a government cannot do anything. When you saw a video here one day where Chinese people were attacking black people, and it was like it was not taken seriously that much. All in all, it is just my opinion. Okay? Environment and social impact. That's the last thing I'll talk on the critics. That some Chinese projects have negative environmental consequences like deforestation and pollution, and that cultural tension sometimes arise between Chinese workers and local communities. About environmental deforestation, in end development we'll have such things will occur. And even if it's not Chinese who are coming to do this development, even if there are other people, Arabs, this will occur on that. Now, Africans worry that China growing influence could undermine local sovereignty and governments. I worry that too. Influence that China, or the speed that China is coming with it in Africa, I feel that one day will interfere with the local sovereignty. I just feel that it's not true. Sorry to say, it's not true. But I feel that, like just France, China will one day come and it will gain its space in this country, and they will stick there and they will try to do what other people have done. Okay. So I'll just finish by saying that we all have different view in China influence in Africa. Some of us think that China is a best friend for Africa. Some of us think that China are hypocrites. They are just trying to be friends, but one day they will turn against us. And that's why for us to end all of this discussion, for us not to have these minds, we as African people, we need to come together to unite. We need to choose good leaders so that we can be great of our own selves, so that we cannot need no one to come and try to build our roads. Let us build, because we have engineers, we have those resources that are being used to build those infrastructure. Why not doing that? Why not? It's time to wake up. When we wake up, no other country will come and pretend to be our friend. But I have not said that China is a good friend. I was just reacting on this video of China being hypocritical, and this man tried to explain why China is a good influence to Africa, and I've bought that story. I've bought it because a lot of Africans right now, they are into BRICS. But personally, I can say that we need to go there with caution. We need to be vigilant when we are making these deals with China. Until next episode, peace be with you.